All right, hey, good evening to everybody out there. Gabe DeArmond and Mitchell Forde here. It is the show that, to this point, has not entered the transfer portal. We make no promises, but for now, we're still here with you guys every Tuesday or Wednesday night, whenever we decide to do it. It's Wednesday this week. Appreciate all of you guys joining us. Mitch, what's up, man?
Not too much. I didn't really know if it was an option for us to enter the transfer portal. If it is, I don't know. I might try it. Everyone seems to be doing it. It's not
Yeah,
a
I
good
mean,
thing.
nobody really tells us what to do. So, look, we appreciate 573Ts for sponsoring us and encourage you to go there, 573Ts.com. We are available, like, to the highest bidder, like I think most college basketball prospects are. But we do appreciate our current sponsor, 573Ts.com. Go there. I actually saw a shirt. They have a shirt that combines my two of my favorite things in the world. It's a upside down Whataburger logo that says Mahomes. So Patrick Mahomes, Whataburger. I mean, I'm there. It's my two favorite things. So I might do that. You guys go pick up whatever you would like to pick up. But Mitch, I think this is going to be the theme of this show. I haven't looked at the questions or the comments yet. Everybody gone. You know, I mean, it's Kobe Brown, Javon Pickett, Jordan Wilmore, and I don't know, some other guys eventually.
A lot of new guys. Yeah, I mean, on one hand, we kind of expected this, and also even more so when you saw the number of people that were going into the portal everywhere. I mean, we're well over 1,000 players now from 357 teams. That's pretty insane. But it is, I can understand at least how, to the casual fan, it's like, what's going on? Because this is, you're replacing now, what, 9 guys, 8 guys. That's in one off season. I think we're at 9 now. That's a lot. That's obviously a lot of turnover. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get more into it. But on the one hand, that's that's a lot to ask for a coach who hasn't recruited incredibly well recently. But on the other, if you were someone who was not feeling very optimistic about the future of next year's team, there's a new team. So
right. Before we get into the specifics of the guys that everybody watching will know hitting the portal, we've got devastating news. Bob Douglas says he's entering the portal. So Mitch, he's going to find a new YouTube star to stalk / admire, whatever the correct term is.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll miss him too. I don't know. Part of me.
You'll miss your free plane ticket to a wedding in Buffalo.
Yeah, part of me might also sleep better at night.
Well, Bob, we appreciate you being here. But hey, you can always change your mind. Like, just because you go in the portal doesn't mean you can't come back.
That's true.
We will welcome you back. So before we talk about the Missouri stuff, like you mentioned something, everybody's doing it. So what really kind of struck me today, Desi Sills from Arkansas goes in the portal. He played 21 minutes a game for a team that went to the Elite Eight, and he's transferring. Like, I really think there is, and look, every case is different, and I think kids should be able to transfer. Like, if they want to, I think they absolutely should. But I think there's a little bit of FOMO going on with these kids. Like, they're looking around and saying, hey, man, everybody's transferring, and like they're getting all this attention. And we like to say when kids are recruited as high school players, like, hey, they only get this chance once. Give them the opportunity. They enjoy the attention. That's cool. They're 17 years old. I think what we're finding out is the 20, 21-year-olds aren't all that much different. I think a lot of these kids are doing it because I don't know that they're going to end up somewhere better, but they see all their buddies getting all this attention and thinking, hey, if I go in the portal, like, I'm going to have all these coaches calling me. I'm going to have all these fans tweeting me, and it's going to be really cool. And maybe that's unfair to these kids, but I really think there's some of that happening.
Yeah, for sure. Now, like, there's a few factors at play. One, obviously, the number of transfers is higher this year because you have a whole class of players that got an extra year of eligibility. So, you've got the number of people who are eligible to transfer is 25% larger than it has been in any other year. But yeah, I agree. I think there's probably guys saying, like, wow, if a guy from UMKC can get calls from Florida and Kansas and Missouri and Kansas State, I mean, maybe I should see what's out there for me. And, at a certain point, that is probably going to burn some kids.
Yeah.
I agree that, I think it should be something that's allowed for everyone to do once. And I think I've been saying this for a while, but I think at some point the market's going to reset itself a little bit as kids do realize, not everyone who goes into the transfer portal finds a landing spot, but also it's becoming more and more a part of these coaches' recruiting strategies. So yeah, it's definitely something that it's just kind of how the game is gonna look for the next few years, I think.
Right. I think both things you said are true. Like, I think this is the craziest it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's ever going to be quite like this again. The COVID year, and they're gonna waive the restriction eventually, and all that. So that's contributing to it. But also, this is going to change the way coaches recruit. So I know somebody who is close to a mid-major coach, and that mid-major coach told him, "I might not recruit high school kids anymore." Because think if you're a mid-major coach, if you recruit a high school kid, like, probably your best case scenario is he's a superstar for you for 2 years. And you know what he's going to do 2 years from now? He's going to transfer to Missouri or Kentucky or Texas or, UCLA, whatever. But he's going to if he's really good at your level, he's going to transfer up. So I think the best case for the mid-major coaches is they look around and say, who are the, Parker Browns or that type of player? Chris Buffin left Ole Miss this year, another SEC guy. Who are those guys who maybe aren't playing quite as much as they want at the high major level, but if they transfer down here, like, if I get him and one more guy, I've got the two best players in my league, and I can go win my league. I can make the tournament, and then I can supplement them with a couple high school kids maybe, or a couple other mid-major transfers who are just looking for a new place to go. And then I'll do this again in 2 years. And if I go to the tournament every 2 or 3 years, I'm never getting fired, and I'm getting all these bonuses. So that's great for the mid-major coaches. Then the high-major coach looks and goes, yeah, I could take this 4-star high school kid or this 3-star high school kid who appears to be really good based on playing 4A basketball in Kentucky. Or I could go take this mid-major kid who scored 16 a game and been on the all-defensive team in his conference, and he's already done it at a level much closer to the level I want to recruit. So I think the people that get screwed by this are the high school kids.
Yeah, no, I agree. A couple things. One, I do agree that mid-major or high-major coaches, are going to do that. And they'd be smart to. You leave a couple spots every year for guys out of the portal because they've shown they can do it. You have a much easier time, scouting their strengths and weaknesses at the college level than you do a kid who's even a good high school prospect who's playing against decent competition. Because you've seen what they can do in the college game. At the same time, I mean, like, I can see a mid-major coach. Well, I can see the point of what you're saying, and like, obviously you got it from someone who is very much closer to the situation than me, who's sitting here speculating. But like, I almost feel like there's going to be some mid-major coaches who are now going to recruit more high schoolers because you're replacing a good player probably in 1, 2, 3 years. If he's good, he's not staying as long. And now that a lot of these high major schools are leaving a spot or two for transfers, that means less of the players who would have gone to those schools out of high school are going there and might be more available to you. A guy who is kind of a fringe Power 5 or high major prospect might now, be getting his primary offers from a, Loyola Chicago or something like that. So it kind of goes both ways. It's really, it is fascinating to see how it's going to work out. But it's something I think that everyone's still just kind of adjusting to and seeing how it's all going to look.
I mean, we're at a point in the last week, the University of Kansas, which is like, look, I know they're not popular on this show. I understand why. They're not particularly popular with the hosts of this show, to be quite honest. But they are, without question, one of the, premier programs in the country. They have offered a transfer guard from UMKC and just took on scholarship a big man from Missouri Southern. Now, look, we could have a discussion about, how FBI driven this all is. But also, like, I mean, this is not a thing that would have happened 5 years ago. You know, I mean, Kentucky just landed a guy from Davidson. You know, Arkansas just went to the Elite Eight with, yes, a guy from Indiana, but their best player all tournament long was a grad transfer from Northern Kentucky. You know, I mean, I think they had another. I think one of their other players, and I can't remember which one, was from like Jacksonville or Jacksonville State. You know, I mean, this is the new normal, and I don't know long term if I love it, but like this season, it's kind of fun. Like it gives us something to follow every single day. You know, another name just popped up that I retweeted right before this. A kid from Furman that Missouri's been in contact with. Like this is now every day of the next at least few weeks.
For sure. Yeah, like I honestly, I totally understand the people who say like this is bad for the sport. Like it's no fun to not, you know, to have to learn a new team every year. I get that. Like, you know, especially if you've been watching college sports longer than I have, which is probably a lot of you. Like, you know, it's different and it's an adjustment. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that you're wrong, but I just don't know that it's going back that way. I mean, this is just kind of how it's gonna be, and it's been trending this way even before the transfer market became what it was to, you know, one and dones and stuff like that. But yeah, now you're gonna see it everywhere, not just the Dukes and Kentuckys.
Right. I mean, like every change is going to ruin sports, right? The DH was going to ruin baseball. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was a big deal that Reggie White was the first free agent in the NFL. Like that was only, 1992? You know, and that was going to be the worst thing. Now it's phenomenal. I mean, imagine pro football without free agency.
Right.
You know, at one time the forward pass was going to screw up sports. So this too shall, I'm not going to say it shall pass, but like we're going to get to a point where people are a little bit more used to this. And ultimately, and I posted this on our board today, yes, you cheer for players, but ultimately being a sports fan, you cheer for clothing. Like, you know, I care zero how much money Patrick Mahomes makes. I care zero that the Chiefs didn't draft, you know, the 3 offensive linemen they've signed. I just want them to win games. I don't really care about the rest of the stuff.
No, you're 100% right. Like even, you know, what I'm saying, I get if this turns some people off a little bit, like those same people would probably still, I would imagine, rather watch a team full of transfers that wins than a team full of 4-year guys who wins 10 games. You know, that's just kind of sports. So, and I agree that it's kind of fun for this year. I mean, like, you know, we exited last offseason kind of like, all right, well, I guess basketball will be interesting again in 2022. And now it's like, oh, we get to learn a whole new team. Like it's a every hour development. So.
Yeah, I think we wrote in the story on Torrance Watson today. As of today, and look, things could still change. Like we are 99.8% sure that Kobe Brown and Javon Pickett are staying for next year. I mean, I think we talked last week. Like Kobe Brown's brother signed. Like if he leaves, like that's kind of a dick move, right? And Javon Pickett, look, he's not going anywhere. Jordan Wilmore, I don't know. I'm not trying to drive him out the door, but he played 22 minutes this year. It wouldn't be a complete shock. But as of now, they're returning 15 points and I don't know, somewhere around 8 rebounds a game. You know, it's kind of crazy, but. You know, Arkansas had 11 new guys this year and went to the Elite Eight. So it's just about finding the right guys. And we're going to turn this a little toward Missouri. And 430 Horse brings up the point that I really want to start with. He says, you can't yell that the team coming back next year is going to be terrible. But when we try to reset the roster and all the bench players transfer, you also get mad. This is an excellent point. And I'm going to clean up the language in the text, which I sent to Mitchell and some other people today. But basically, most of the season, or at least most of the last 2 months, Missouri fans have been saying, well, these players all suck. And now these players are leaving, and you're mad that they're leaving. Like, why? It can't be both ways. And I want to be clear, I'm not endorsing the these players suck mantra. But if you thought that last year's team wasn't good enough and needed more talent, then why do you want to keep players who were clearly in the lower half of last year's team?
Yeah. Like, let's be real. There's very clearly a segment of people that are unhappy with the coach and are going to use every opportunity they can to express their unhappiness with the coach. I read a post on our board today that was basically like, I don't care what you say. This is clearly signs that Conzo Martin has an issue. Don't tell me otherwise. It's like, okay, at least you're honest. Like, fine. That's, if you want to believe that, that's totally fine. And we said, like, and this is not, I'm not trying to sit over here and say, Conzo Martin's done an amazing job. Like, there are definitely reasons to be skeptical that he can fill 9 spots effectively in one offseason, because his recruiting is, as we've said many times, probably the thing that's been the biggest issue during his tenure here. But that being said, we've been saying you probably need some more talent on this roster. Now he has the ability to do that, and I think I'm thinking it's, he recognized that as well. I mean, like, reading between the lines here, it seems like Mark Smith, had he been encouraged to come back to Missouri, probably would have done so. Doesn't make much sense to come back to college for 1 more year and then go play for a bad Big 12 team.
Right.
So I think that the coaching staff was looking to use this offseason as a chance to kind of push the reset button.
Well, yeah, and so there are really 2 categories of guys who have transferred. And actually, one category is just Xavier Pinson. Like, that's it.
Right.
He's in his own category. And I think we've both been pretty clear. Conzo gets some of that. Like, some of that's on him. He might have been not the greatest teammate and not the most consistent player and all that, but Missouri is a better team if Xavier Pinson is on the roster. I mean, I think the best case scenario you can paint is Amari Davis kind of equals maybe what Pinson did next year, but the difference is Pinson's already done it at this level, and Amari Davis has done it in the Horizon League. Like, that's
right. And Amari Davis isn't really a primarily ball handler either, and Missouri is running out of, I mean, they really don't have a primary ball handler right now for next season. And I mean, maybe Anton Brookshire, but he's never played a college game.
Yeah, I don't think you want to be relying on a true freshman to be your true point. Like, they got to go find one. But then the other category is everybody else. I mean, you touched on Mark Smith. Look, Parker Brown played 9 minutes a game? I don't think played against Oklahoma, right?
No, he did not.
And let's not ignore the fact, once you have family members tweeting at other coaches to recruit you, like, I don't want to get into all the other stuff, but, like, you can't come back from that. If you're and that's not Parker's fault or anything, but if you're a head coach and you see that, that's it, man. We're done with this. We're not dealing with this anymore. And then, Torrance Watson played 7 minutes a game this year. He averaged 1.8 points. His numbers have gone down every single year he's been in college. Ed Chang, I don't know. What do we say about that?
Was a cardboard cutout, perhaps?
Right. One shot an air ball in warm-ups? Like, that's the bio?
Yeah, I mean, that, yeah. Truly, probably the most baffling signing of my life. Like, I've never seen anything that made less sense.
And look, I want to be clear. I don't know. Ed Chang may be a wonderful human being and actually maybe a wonderful basketball player. I've literally never spoken to him. I don't know. I think maybe I got some quotes off a text message with him when he committed. That's the extent of my interaction with him. But the only guys that I can think in program history who are more baffling maybe would be Cam Beachide and Zach Price, because they actually got kicked off the team before they played a game. So at least Ed left of his own volition before playing a minute. But also, Beachide and Price had some, there was a little bit more perceived ability at the time of their signings. I mean, Zach Price played on Louisville's national championship team. He hardly played, but there was something there. Yeah. And Cam went to Notre Dame, and saw the floor. So the issue with Chang is more, we saw this a year ago. Then it's surprising now, but. So I think really the issue is, and a lot of people have brought this up in the chat, and appreciate you guys. We're going to get to questions and comments and all that. Appreciate you hitting the like button and subscribing and all those things. So we will get to your comments, but a number of people have kind of brought up, basically, this is now a chance for Conzo to completely start over. So there are 2 schools of thought. Either, hey, this is good, he gets to get all his guys in here, or I don't trust him to do it. And I think that's really the discussion we're having is, okay, he gets to start over, and there are the perpetually optimistic people who say, I want to see what this looks like. And then there are the people who have given up who say, well, he hadn't recruited anybody for the last 2 years, so I don't see why I should believe he's going to recruit anybody this year. And, like, that's fair. I mean, I understand that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, and with what you're saying, not necessarily either camp, but yeah, I get people who are skeptical, you know. I mean, this team, we really thought, you know, I thought all season watching them, they were one hit in the transfer portal, one wing who can, you know, shoot and get his own shot away from being a really solid team. And he just didn't make that happen. Now you've got to get filled 9 spots, and yeah, they filled 5 already. So you got to fill 4 spots, or they filled 6 already. But anyway, you know, that's a big ask. And it's true that, you know, it's a little easier to probably now that you have playing time to sell. But yeah, there's questions there. At the same time, you know, I do think that is the basis for, you know, a lot of these arguments of like, you know, he's not going to get it done here. He needs to be shown the door. When, like, even if I'm not incredibly optimistic that he's going to all of a sudden build this dynamic roster in one off season, like, you got to give him a shot. He's earned the opportunity. And especially, you know, it probably won't, even no matter who he pulls in, it probably won't be a high achieving team next season. I don't think. You never know. But like, he'll have the chance to you know, use that season as kind of learning experience, maybe bring in a guy in that 2022 class where they're in on some good local kids, and then see if they can make a run that year.
And I think the good thing is, you know, everybody every year wants an answer. Like, the argument that's raged all this season is, well, we're in year 4, you know, can we quit talking about Kim Anderson? We should know by now, all that, and whatever. But in the next 2 years, we are going to know, as 430 Horse says, either he's going to get this right and he's going to be here as long as he wants to be, or he's going to get it wrong and he will lose his job in 2 or 3 years. Like, there is no in between. This offseason is going to, in my opinion, determine how long Cuonzo Martin's here. If he gets the right guys, he'll walk away when he wants to walk away. And I truly believe this is Cuonzo's last college job. Like, I think he's done coaching when he's done here. The only question is whether that's his choice or Missouri's choice.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. Like you said, he'll get a chance to prove it for sure.
Adam Schlittler is asking if we expect Jordan Wilmore to enter the portal. We don't know. I can say this. We had indications well, I don't want to include Mark Smith because that's a different situation. But on Pinson, Parker Brown, and Torrance Watson, like, we had stories written. We'd been told ahead of time, hey, this is probably happening. We haven't been told that on Jordan Wilmore. Now, could it happen? Yeah, he played 22 minutes, but I don't know. I would think if it's up to Jordan Wilmore, Mitch, I would think he'll come back. I don't know why he wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, like, it makes almost no sense in my mind for him to transfer. He, you know, I mean, Mizzou kind of took a chance on him. Right. Mizzou kind of took a chance on him to begin with. I don't know who's watching his 22 minutes a game and saying, yeah, we need that guy. And yeah, I would be surprised, I guess, at least a little surprised if the coaching staff kind of pushed him out, just because, and I have no idea like how he is as a kid or in the locker room or anything like that. Literally never talked to him, except I think when he committed, I talked to him on the phone. But yeah, you know, assuming he like works decently hard and all that, like, you know, he's a guy who does have, you know, something you can't teach in the size. And he was a guy who always, the plan was he wasn't going to play this past year. He was going to sit behind Jeremiah Tillman. So it would be a little weird in my mind to bail on that plan now. But yeah, like, we can't discount the possibility. They've got 6 guys in the portal and he played 20 minutes or whatever. Like, it could very well happen.
It would also be a little surprising to go from 22 minutes to starting center in the SEC. To be quite honest.
Yes, it would. I do think that there's going to be a big man found in the transfer portal by Missouri.
Yeah, somewhere. Want to shout out Pocket Watch with the super chat. Appreciate you joining us, and hey, maybe the new home for Xavier Pinson. Eventually, it's weird. A bunch of stuff happened on that in like the first 24 hours. Like, he was Instagramming every offer, and now I've heard absolutely nothing for a week. So I don't know where he's going to end up.
Yeah,
At this point,
I've kind of stopped caring at this point.
yeah, at this point, whatever. But let's talk about where the one Missouri guy that we know where he's going. I don't know, man. Like Mark Smith to K-State was just weird to me.
I mean,
it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Smith entering the portal was weird to me.
Right.
I'm like I said earlier, I think you can kind of piece together at this point what the conversations were with the Missouri staff. But like in my mind, why do you want to come back to school and play if you don't have that opportunity at your school? And if you or if you did have that opportunity at your school, where do you think you're going that you're getting a longer leash than he had last year?
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't great and he played a ton. So, I mean, it's just a little strange to me. I've really felt like a guy he's a guy who could probably make a living playing in Europe and probably was never going to get to the point where he had a higher ceiling. He's been in college for 4 years at this point, but maybe he's wanting to finish his degree. Who knows? I don't know every kid's situation.
But also, it's weird to me from K-State's side. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they were awful this year. I mean, just dreadful. Now, I have no idea what they've got coming back. I saw some guy took a 6th year over there. Mike McGurl, who I think actually started college I think he played with Mitch Richmond on the 1988 Elite 8 team. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It just seems like a weird fit to me. Mark Smith, a guy who he's 5th year, third school. The shooting percentage has gone down every year he's been at Missouri. I don't know that that's the guy. If you're looking at a rebuild, I don't know that the 5th year senior is the guy you take. But like, good for Mark. I'm glad he gets to play again. I was surprised. I thought he might go somewhere more in Illinois or SLU or something like that, where hey, he could just go in and be a guy that gets to take 8 3-pointers a game.
Yeah, and maybe he could be that guy. I mean, probably not 8, but at K-State, maybe they've got nothing on the roster. I have no idea, but yeah. Whatever. At least he brings experience, so there's that.
All right, so let's start going through and catching up maybe on some of the comments that we haven't hit yet, or some of the questions. Let's see. We covered Bob Douglas at the beginning, so we've already got that. I am transferring to North Carolina, according to our viewers. Okay, we're going to switch gears because I'm just going in order here. We'll come back to the basketball stuff in a minute, but we'll switch gears real quick. Can we talk about how hot the seat must be for Steve Bieser? Like, look, I'm going to be very clear. I have no idea what Steve Bieser's contract status is. Do you?
I know he got an extension at some point in the last couple of years, but I don't know the terms of it at all.
So in my personal opinion, here is the qualifications for not getting fired for every sport except football and men's basketball here. Don't break NCAA rules. Don't embarrass us publicly. Somewhere along there, hopefully win a decent number of games. But that's really it. Like, if Missouri's not really, like, they're not going to buy out a baseball coach.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I know this is not something that a passionate fan of the program wants to hear, but you can't invest in baseball like Missouri invests in baseball and then all of a sudden demand that a coach be better than Steve Bieser is and like fire him for not, because I mean, like, Missouri's so far in last in the SEC and investment in baseball, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally you would not give up 8 runs in the 7th inning and lose to Kansas, but
right, in a perfect world, sure.
But I don't know that was I don't know if a coaching decision led to that. You just but yeah, ultimately, I don't really think it's I don't think he's getting fired after this year. And look, I could be wrong. Like, I'm not super tied into that program. I didn't even realize they played Kansas until I saw the tweets, but Right. Adam wants to know, how does a coach even navigate the transfer portal with over 1,000 players? So I may or may not have seen the portal at some point. And like, it's actually, it's like anything online. I mean, you can separate it by almost anything you want, by sport, by year, by, you can by school. So it's not really that hard. And Mitch, I answered a question in the mailbag today about how somebody was saying, I think it's got to be harder because it's like speed dating. I think it's actually much easier to evaluate these kids than high school kids. Like, they've already played college basketball. You've got somewhere between 20 and 100 games of them to watch, and you probably have somebody at that school that you know and can call and ask about them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, like I touched on it earlier, I think from an evaluation standpoint, a transfer is generally a more sure thing because, yeah, you've seen them at this level. I'm sure it is a little bit challenging to develop their relationship, especially, as more and more kids enter the portal. We've seen guys say like, oh, yeah, I better hurry up and like speed up my timeline a little bit, make a decision before spots fill up. So, there's the difficulty of just kind of juggling the roster and how long you wait on a certain kid and your priorities and stuff like that. And I mean, like, let me just say, I've been doing some transfer tracking and writing stories on transfer options. I would not be able to keep track of who is good and who is not in the portal. Now, I'm not a basketball coach.
You don't get paid $3 million either, yeah.
Right. I don't have access to their film. I don't care to find their film, and I don't know other people who coach them. But it is very overwhelming. I just kind of get on there, and I'm just like, nah, he looks like he could help Missouri. I'll throw him on that list. Yeah. Oh, this guy looks like he's heard from Missouri. We'll do him.
It'll be interesting to see, and I want to be clear, neither one of us is going to do this research, but it will be interesting to see at the end of this year of these 1,100 kids or whatever the number is now, how many end up going back to the same place? How many actually how many better their situation? How many go to a place that you would think, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense? And then how many just don't have a place? There's going to be kids who are transferring who aren't playing college basketball next year, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Or at least not Division I. Yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, the math doesn't make sense. You can't, some of those spots that are being vacated by transfers are being filled with high school recruits. So, I mean, when you've got, basically almost a whole class of seniors able to come back. So we'll conservatively say a third of them want to come back, but then you bring in the basically same number of high school students as normal. The math doesn't work out there.
Yeah. Jake wants to know any update on Aiden Shaw out of KC. We've been so focused on the 21 kids and the transfers. I'm not sure we've checked a lot into 22, but him and Mark Mitchell are both 22 kids out of Kansas City that, again, it goes back to you were saying the blueprint is be good enough this year that maybe you can get some difference makers in 22, and I think Aiden Shaw has to be one of the guys you're looking at.
Yeah, I have talked to Aiden Shaw before. He got a Mizzou offer, probably a year ago now, maybe a little more. And he had already been to campus. He's on the staff's radar for sure. I actually reached out to him this week. He's on spring break, like everyone in the, or at least in the Kansas City area is. All these schools are. So we'll try to, set up an interview at some point after that and check in with him. And yeah, here over the coming weeks, we will kind of go down the list and catch up with all the class of 2022 guys that Mizzou's recruiting.
Breakfast King wants to know any rumors on Ed Chang's landing spot. I mean, I know Missouri Southern lost a big guy today, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I do not. I could not even. You could ask me any rumors on Ed Chang's existence, and I would say no, I haven't heard anything. I mean, he's in the portal, so they think he's real.
Right. Yeah. We're gonna find out Ed Chang is catfishing the transfer portal at some point this year. But before we move on to the rest of the questions, I want to remind you go visit 573tees.com. I think they should make an Ed Chang jersey of wherever he ends up. Whether it's back at Salt Lake Community College, whether it's back at San Diego State, I don't know, maybe he transfers to Kansas. They're taking dudes. Who knows? But wherever.
That would be an upset.
Yeah, Ed Chang jersey. I would 100% buy it. If 573 Tees makes an Ed Chang jersey, it is my pledge that I will buy it and wear it on the first available 573 report. So it's out there. I'm just saying. We got to figure out where he's going first. But no, we have absolutely no idea where he's going, to be quite honest. But if you want an Ed Chang jersey or any other shirts, go to 573tees.com and do that. Let's see. Okay, so True Divinity points out that Amari Davis has a chance to be Green Bay's all-time leading scorer, and now he is headed to Mizzou. Going to see stuff like that all the time. You are. Here's what is interesting to me. For every Jalen Tate, the guy that went from Northern Kentucky to Arkansas, there's going to be a kid who transfers up from a mid-major, and you go, now I see why he was at the mid-major level. And I don't know which one Amari Davis is, but this is what junior college recruiting used to be. You would see in April and May, all of a sudden, teams would get they'd be like, well, we missed the high school kids. We got a spot. We need a forward. We're going to go offer this kid from, Southern Idaho or Coffeyville or whatever. And all of a sudden, some of these JUCO guys that you wouldn't think would have these offers all of a sudden get these offers. That's what the transfer portal is now. That's what the mid-major level is people just going, yeah, I mean, I know this guy was at Furman, but like Duke is recruiting the Furman kid. That's what spring recruiting is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Missouri fans are all too well aware of that, of the late additions like Christian Jessen, Axel Okonkwo, and Ed Chang. But yeah, I mean, I think there are already examples like that of a guy who, tried to come up from a lower level and it just didn't work out. I mean, this is extreme because it's D2 to D1, but remember that kid with the great name who Mizzou was recruiting last year? His name was like Quavaz or something. No. I don't know. Okay, well, he was a Division II transfer, and I looked this up because Mizzou's in touch with another D2 transfer this year, and I was like, how'd that one kid work out? He averaged 3 points a game at DePaul, who was terrible. So, my guess is he probably wasn't. That was probably a little bit too big of a leap. So, yeah, that's going to happen. Am I saying it's going to happen with Amari Davis? Obviously not. I have no idea. I've never seen him play. Right. He put up good numbers at Green Bay. But, yeah, I mean, you definitely can't, just assume every transfer is going to come in and hit.
I mean, I saw he broke a scoring record set by Tony Bennett. So whether he's a good player or not, he's clearly winning at least one national title as a head coach. So that is in his future. He's got that to look forward to. Adam wants to know if there's any concern over the APR. Look, I don't understand the APR. I don't know how it's figured out. But it's kind of like the salary cap. I mean, if you screw up the APR, then you're just dumb and you're not paying attention. I mean, if there was concern over the APR, Konzo would have told somebody they could come back, right?
Yeah, I would think. I mean, I also don't know how it works. So, yes. But, I mean, I assume all the 5 seniors who are graduating or who are transferring or leaving, they're graduated. So, that's a significant factor, I know. But, yeah, I cannot imagine it's an issue. If it is, then the coaches are dumb.
Yeah, there's a couple of there's a couple of caveats in this, too. Number one, all they have to do is be leaving in good academic standing. Basically pass your classes. Don't be an idiot. And it's not going to – also, they just have to transfer to another 4-year institution. Now, look, if one of these guys left with a 1.3 GPA and ends up at a JUCO, then, yeah, that's probably going to hurt Missouri. But I think – not to the point where there's going to be penalties. There's been one program ever in history that actually suffered severe penalties from the APR.
Yeah, well, one high major, the poor SWAC has teams every year on academic probation.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to that. I couldn't even name most of the SWAC, so
you should familiarize yourself. You should familiarize yourself with the SWAC. It's a great league.
I'll do my best. Let's see. All right, Hot Shoulders is 5'4", 190 and has eligibility remaining. So,
all right,
we'll pass that
along. I'll get in touch with the staff at Mizzou. You'll probably be hearing from them
Hot
soon.
Shoulders. Just DM Mitch your huddle link, and we'll get it figured out. I want to check this out. So, Breakfast King excels at shooting air balls in warmups, so could be a spot on the roster for him.
Yeah, that's really all I had to report about Ed Chang. So if that's all you have to report about yourselves, I can't say you're disqualified.
All right. Let's see. What do we have to? Okay, Greg Shackelford wants to know kind of what we were talking about earlier. What do we have to show any faith that this reset will work for Mizzou basketball? The last one did. I think. Yeah, his first team was bringing back a little bit more, obviously. And now, look, it would help if there was a 5-star that grew up a Mizzou fan and you hired his dad. That would be a bonus. But yeah, I don't know I don't know if it will or not. But at this point, what are you gonna do? Just stop caring? That's the only other alternative.
Right. Yeah.
Because all the guys aren't just gonna decide to transfer back.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely not an apples to apples comparison between that taking over from Kim Anderson and this one, because he actually inherited some decent players. Jordan Barnett ended up being a pro, a G League player, and Jordan Geist ended up being a very serviceable player. Mitchell Smith was still on the roster as of last year, but it was undeniably I mean, an impressive job turning around a team. Like if you're just talking rebuild turnaround, like, they went from winning 9 games to winning whatever it was, 24 or 25 or whatever. So, I wouldn't. And again, like you said, like you can go ahead and make up your mind that this coach isn't working out here, but like that just doesn't seem very fun to me.
Right. I mean, it'll, because then you'll just be mad if he wins. So
exactly. Well, which there definitely that faction exists.
That's
no
a
doubt.
thing that happens. Yeah. Brandon wants to know, wanted to get your thoughts on why Martin has struggled recruiting at Mizzou. It was one of his strengths before he got here. So I'm going to actually bring up the point that I'm not sure he's struggled recruiting on paper. Now, the last 2 years he has. I mean, clearly he has. But like his first 2 years here, he had a 5-star who played 72 minutes or whatever. Another one who got injured before year 2. But he then also had, via transfer, Mark Smith was one of the most heavily recruited guys in the country in the spring of 2018. And he ended up not quite as good as people thought he was going to be then. Torrance Watson was a 4-star that was committed to Ohio State, and Missouri flipped him, and he ended up as a guy that just wasn't as good as his ranking. So if you actually look at some of the 4-stars he's gotten, I think the problem is they just ended up not being as good of players as people thought. Like, people were mad when Mark Smith didn't come to Missouri. They were mad when they thought Torrance Watson was going to Ohio State, So you can't get mad that he misses them, and then when he ends up getting them and they're not great, like, say, why did he recruit those guys? I mean, it's a catch-22.
Yeah, for sure. And a couple things. One, I remember you did the research and found that his recruiting at Missouri has not been significantly worse. If anything, it's probably been better than his recruiting at Cal and Tennessee.
Yeah.
The 5-stars just didn't quite pan out here. They just didn't play like 5-stars, when they were on the court. I mean, like Jonte Porter had one fine season, but at that point he was a 6th man. So, that's a big part of it. I think the other thing that you can criticize is these past couple classes. I feel like, they've done a good job of getting in on some guys early that then kind of blow up, and then they just seem to not really have much of a backup plan. I mean, like, when guys like, actually this guy's back on the market now, but Tamar Bates goes elsewhere, or Caleb Love and Cameron Fletcher go elsewhere or whatever, like then it's all of a sudden seemed like they're kind of making these big reaches late in the cycle, which, for better or worse, they didn't do with this 2021 class. They didn't go after the same type caliber of names, but they took all these guys early, which suggests that they felt pretty good about them all. So we'll see how it works out.
Yeah. James wants to know any possibility of changes to the coaching staff. I mean, there's always a chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think that's a point of discussion that's worth being discussed. I mean, the head coach is ultimately the recruiter, but also, like, I don't know. At some point, you might need a little turnover, and the last time they had turnover, I mean, obviously they let Michael Porter Sr. go and hired Marco Harris, who has been with Conzo for a long time, but he was the director of ops before then. So I think most Missouri fans would not necessarily be opposed to there being a change, but also I don't know enough about the inner workings to say which coach isn't necessarily doing his job or shouldn't be here.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like on paper, it kind of makes sense, I guess, to, shake things up. But at this, like, I don't know who does what within the staff. I can say this, like, Chris Hollander clearly thinks he's going to be around at Missouri because he's recruiting Brandon McKissick for them. And Cornell Mann thinks he's going to be around at Missouri because I assume he's recruiting Wendell Green for them, who he recruited out of high school. So, like, it seems like those two guys think they're going to have a job on the staff next year. So,
and Marco Harris is, like, he's been with Conzo forever. He's going to stay. I'd be shocked if he didn't. But also it'll be a little bit weird this year because typically when things happen are at the Final Four. Like all these coaches go to the Final Four and they have these discussions, and there's this little, hey, what if maybe we had an opening? Would you, but nobody's going this year, I assume, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't, I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe that they're like, they can't get into the games, but maybe they'll just have the little coaches conventions at St. Elmo's, unofficial coaches conventions at St. Elmo's anyway. Maybe they'll all just still go. I mean, like,
Yeah.
There wasn't a limit on hotel rooms from what I could tell when I was there a couple weeks ago. Hotel was plenty full. So they can still get together outside of the games, I guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are games going on. You know, it's been a really cool tournament with a ton of upsets that I think is probably going to end up with the two teams playing for the title that most people thought were going to play for the title before the tournament started, right?
Yeah, I agree. The first two rounds were so crazy that I think made the Sweet 16 Elite Eight a little bit worse just because we had some teams sneak in there that really just they had played it over their heads for a weekend, and it ended up showing. There were still a few good games though, but yeah, I mean, like, it definitely seems like we're rolling towards Gonzaga and Baylor, which is fine with me. You know, I like upsets early on, but I do enjoy getting a chance to see the best two teams play.
Gonzaga, nobody's even been – there's been one team all year that's come within 10 points of them.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That USC team, like, I watched them embarrass Kansas and embarrass Oregon. Like, that's a good team, and it was 36-15. That was a non-competitive – I didn't even have time to turn that game on before it was over.
I know. I turned it on, and it was like 17-4. I was like, well, that was fun.
Yeah. Well, and then the other one, and like I've fully said, I didn't watch very much college basketball this year. Like the first time all year I've seen Baylor play was against Arkansas. I just want to say that I think Davion Mitchell is the best player in the history of basketball. Like I've never seen a guy that good. I love that guy. He's my favorite player.
He only even had one good half in that game. But yeah, I mean, like they came out just shooting the lights out. That was impressive. And that's what they can do. I'm not going to say I've watched a ton of Baylor this year, but I've watched them a few times. Like for a while, they started the season like 21-0. You don't do that without being pretty good. And for a while there, they were, leading the nation in 3-point shooting. So that's obviously they're capable of putting up points. So yeah, hopefully if them and Gonzaga meet up, they'll shoot the ball pretty well and we'll have a good game.
I mean, there was like a 10-minute stretch of that game where Baylor's offense was, all right, Mitchell dribble the ball across midcourt, dribble at the 3-point line for 8 seconds, and then just kind of decide when you want to go around the guy. Like, that's the whole thing. Everybody else is just going to kind of stand off to the side. And if you miss the shot, we'll rebound it and dunk it.
Yeah, they've got some studly guards, too, just all around. And also, how about the 6'5" guy? He's like 6'5", 220, who got up for that one-handed putback dunk. I was impressed. Yeah,
they're a good team. So, clearly, we're going to get UCLA Houston in the national title game. I would not want it.
I'd be a little disappointed, but I'm not making any predictions at this point off this tournament.
Right. Fair point. Okay, Sam Smith.
Shout out to my mom for winning the family bracket pool.
Oh yeah, I haven't.
Yeah, my mom won.
I haven't checked our bracket pool. I know I've been falling the last couple of rounds, and
I'm talking like extended family too, like 15, 20 people in there. So
does she actually know what she's doing?
I mean, she indirectly watches a decent amount of basketball, but no, no. I mean, there are two of us in there who are literally paid to do it. So
who didn't win?
Yeah, to say she knows more, it would be surprising.
Well, if you said she knew more, I would potentially ask if she would like to work for PowerMizzou.com. But Sam Smith wants to know, how well do you expect English to do at George Mason? Here is the extent of my knowledge of George Mason basketball. They made the Final Four under Jim Larinaga. I know that. That's it. Mm-hmm. I know no more.
Yeah.
Couldn't name a player.
Yeah. Nope. I agree. Yeah. They're pretty close to Kim's hometown, so that's good. That can't hurt. About the state of their program, and I mean, like, I haven't talked to enough people in coaching about Kim, but I've heard pretty good things about him. Like, he's put in his due. He's worked for some pretty good coaches. He's clearly a sharp dude. So hopefully it works out for him.
And they're in the A10 now. Is that right?
I am pretty certain of that, but maybe they're in the Colonial.
No, they're one of them. I feel like they used to be in the Colonial, and now they're in the A10, which obviously makes it harder.
Right. Yeah, harder, but also a higher ceiling. Like you can that can be a multi-bid league. You don't have to have a perfect 3 days at the right time to get in the tournament.
Yeah, totally agree. Daniel wants to know odds of getting guys like Tamar Bates or Rocket Watts that Mizzou recruited previously. Look, they are clearly very interested in Tamar Bates, I think. I think the big concern has to be there, is he going to follow Shaka to Marquette? If he doesn't, I think Missouri has a chance. I don't really have any indication that they're probably on Rocket Watts, who, frankly, hadn't been a very good college player.
Yeah, so agree on both accounts. Missouri wants Tamar Bates. I can assure you all of that. They're definitely looking to pull the old Poach Martin move there. So we'll see.
I think he needs to commit to Illinois first, though.
Yeah, Marquette obviously is a possibility. There's talk about Kentucky because his lead recruiter from Texas is there, and obviously it's Kentucky. I'd be a little surprised. I mean, I have no idea what Kentucky's recruiting and roster looks like. It seems, I just feel like I don't know. That would surprise me a little bit as a fit, but who knows? That's an option. But I think Missouri will be right in the thick of it at a minimum. And yeah, I have not seen anything to indicate Missouri's going after Rocket Watson. Frankly, if Xavier Pinson was a little bit too much of a headache for the coaching staff, is Rocket Watts going to be any different? Plus, he's been less productive. He's averaged something he shot something like 28% from the field. He's just not been that good.
I mean, his mortgage company sponsored the whole basketball team, and he's not even staying there. So,
That's true.
It's kind of telling.
That's true. For sure.
Along those lines, just kind of side note here, because I don't think Tamar Bates, I don't think there's any chance he's going to end up staying at Texas necessarily, but that's kind of the big one that's open out there. Tomorrow is the day Chris Beard's buyout drops, so that'll be interesting. I've heard some Eric Musselman talk too.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly done a good job. I mean, he can clearly coach. He had Nevada going for a little bit there, and he, he did a great job with this Arkansas team. My one thing with him, I'm curious if everyone's he was playing the transfer game before everyone else. Now that everyone's trying to do it, can he sustain it? We'll see.
Right. Also, imagine how good of a coach he would be if he did not coach his team to get down 12 points in the first half of every single game it's ever played.
Yeah. I mean, but maybe that's part of his magic. I don't know. Maybe they have to.
Right. All right, guys. So we want to be down 28-16, and then I'm going to put my good players in the game, and you can start making shots.
Yeah, I almost tweeted at one point when they were down, I don't know, what was it, 14-1 or 14-2 or whatever early in that game. I was like, I actually think it's a smart strategy to go ahead and get falling down 10 out of the way early in this game.
100%. It was my thought in the Missouri's NCAA tournament game. Hey, they were up big. They were up 15-7 and then blew the lead immediately. I was like, well, you already got the 8-point lead blown out of the way. Maybe you won't do it in the last 2 minutes now. So, Breakfast King says, don't hire any coaches who can't handle the shrimp cocktail at St. Elmo's. Are there coaches who can't handle it?
I mean, I wouldn't think at this point, at a minimum, if you can't handle it, you just wouldn't get it. You got to know at this point. But also, it's, I don't know. Yeah, it's different than it's not spicy
it's horseradish.
Hot pepper spicy. Yeah, it'll get you going. It'll get you sweating for a minute there, but then it's gone pretty fast. It doesn't leave your lips on fire or make you feel like you want to puke.
Fair. Yes.
At least in my experience.
Yeah, I've never puked shrimp cocktail, so it sounds terrible. All right. Honest thoughts on this class: Wendell Green, Brandon McKissick, Tamar Bates, and a transfer big. I mean, that would be good, right? That would be that's best case scenario, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know that you could do much better.
Yeah. Is that team competitive? I mean, it's along with Kobe Brown, Pickett, a freshman class, yes, it's definitely competitive. I don't know if it's a tournament team, but it's competitive.
Right. I think so. But yeah, we're talking about our team then that I've seen two of the players play in person ever. It's hard for me to really answer that question, especially when you've got a lot of guys Wendell Green put up great numbers at Eastern Kentucky, but who knows how that's going to translate to the SEC.
Eastern Kentucky, that's where Matty Mock went after he left Missouri. So
accurate. There's
my knowledge of the Colonels. Georgia Rebel points out that Jackson State and Prairie View will be canceling me for not knowing that they were in the SWAC. So is Grambling in the SWAC? Is that
they are?
Okay. See, I'm getting there. I'm picking it up. All right. Jake B says, who knew that Tyree Gillespie was 4.3 fast? That kind of caught me off guard. He ran the same 40 as Kadarius Toney.
Yeah. I mean, we always knew he was very athletic. I mean, the staff would, mentioned to us multiple points, like even before he started playing, like, this kid, like he's got Sunday's athleticism, but 4.3 that's elite. That's moving.
And like, is he going to be a guy that in the NFL we all go, that's interesting. I never knew he was going to be that good.
Very possible. I mean, at a minimum,
like,
a minimum, I think he'll be drafted like that guy. I think he's going to rise up to maybe even a day 2 pick.
I think he's a 3rd round pick. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Based on the 4.3. So somebody asked me in the mailbag. So give me your prediction. We got 5 guys that could be drafted. We'll kind of finish on this. Give me your prediction on rounds. I don't even know when the draft is. I know it's in Cleveland, but
sometime in April. I
Nick
believe.
Bolton.
I'm going to say 2nd. I know there's been talk about 1st, but yeah, I think his combine stuff hurts him just a tad, and I think he'll go 2nd.
And I think everybody that is picking like 20 to 30 is going to look at him and go, "We could take him now, but I think we'll be able to get him in 15 picks."
Yeah, I probably agree.
So I think that's going to be the case. I said Gillespie 3rd.
In an effort to not be boring, I'll say 4th.
Okay. Larry Borum.
6th, I guess.
Yeah, I said 5th.
Somewhere
I had no
somewhere. But once you get to that point, like teams start drafting guys you've never even heard of. So yeah, we'll see.
Right. And I'm kind of asking this to prove a point, but Larry Roundtree.
I do not think he will probably be picked.
And Josh Bledsoe.
I could see him going in the 7th, but I'd probably lean towards not picked.
Yeah, I said Bledsoe and Roundtree undrafted free agents, and I bring this up to point out this. Every year we go into the draft, and the players you overrate, right? Because you don't realize that like there's a safety from Hofstra that's going to go in the 5th round, and there's a running back from Eastern Washington Vocational Tech that's going to go in the 6th round. And there's just all these guys that we don't know about, and especially this year because there's not even going to be a combine. So there's going to be a minimum of 50 guys drafted that I've absolutely never heard of, and I'm paid to follow college football. So, I think 3 guys get their name called. I think it's Bolton, Gillespie, and I think Borum gets picked at some point just because he is big and athletic.
Yeah, I tend to think so as well. And like, I think Bledsoe has a chance. I think Roundtree has a chance. My thing with Roundtree is like, I think I just don't see him being a guy who some team goes, oh man, like we got to take a shot at that guy, because he just doesn't have a ton left of tread left on the tires for a running back. I don't think, he's not a guy who you're saying like, let's take a flyer on him because he could end up being really good in 5 years. Like he'll be really solid, and I think he can make a team because he's a good kid and he works hard. But yeah, I think he's probably the least likely of the 5 to get drafted. Yeah.
All right, we'll finish up one last question from Jake Edwards. How afraid should I be of Illinois flipping Isaac Thompson? I mean, I can't tell you how afraid to be. You be as afraid as you want to be. I think there is virtually no chance Illinois flips Isaac Thompson, but I don't want to tell you to not be scared if it is your desire to be scared.
Yeah, I deferred to Sean Williams on this, and he said that he doesn't think there's much of a chance. So I agree with what he says. He knows more than me.
And also, like, I don't know if afraid is the right word. Like,
sure.
Concerned, maybe, wary, but I think afraid is a little bit strong. So,
don't tell people how to live their lives.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I don't know. We've gone about an hour. We've talked about every transfer in America, I think. Nobody's transferred since the show started.
Believe me, both of those last 2 statements aren't true. There are so many more transfers we haven't talked about because
nobody has transferred
in the portal and
or from Missouri since the show started.
There we go. Nice.
Right? We think?
I don't think so. I hope not. I'd rather not pick up my phone here in a minute and find that to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, I have mine with me. It hasn't buzzed yet. So, all right. Well, appreciate all you guys being here. Pretty good crowd for a random off-season Wednesday. We'll keep this up every now and then. We might switch to Tuesdays. Largely depends on, well, let's be honest. It just largely depends on which days we want to play golf going forward. So we'll figure that out. But we'll be here once a week with you, and we'll be doing that thanks to 573Ts. So before you leave, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. when you leave, go over to 573tees.com. Check them out. Give them a little business, and make sure that they know you heard about it here on the show. And Mitch, I don't know. We'll wake up and check the portal again tomorrow.
Sounds good. That's the new routine.
All right. Let me know if you see Bob Douglas in there.
Oh, yeah. I'll keep an eye on it.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll talk to you later on.